Good morning, grade 7 students. In this video, we're going to make a revision for respiration for the weeks 20 and 21. So the respiratory system includes many different organs in human, the nose, the mouth, the pharynx, the larynx, and many others. Maybe the most important part is the lungs. So the breathing is the actual mechanical intake of air. It consists of two different phases. It consists of inhalation and exhalation. These are called the respiratory movements. So inhalation is the process of taking air inside our body. That's why it's called inhalation. While exhalation is the process of releasing air outside the body. The respiratory movement in insects, mainly we have to talk about the grasshopper. The grasshopper has an important activity during the respiration process. When the abdomen is raised or when the abdomen is lowered. When the abdomen is raised or its abdomen is lowered, you have respiration. So which phase, inhalation or exhalation? When the abdomen is lowered, so it's during the inhalation. While when the abdomen is raised, this is the exhalation, and you have to know these notes. So if the abdomen is lowered, the grasshopper has inhaled air, while if the abdomen is raised, the grasshopper has exhaled air. So these notes are important. Respiratory movement of the grasshopper. Here we have to talk about a special part in the spiracle that allow the air to enter inside the respiratory organ of the grasshopper. This respiratory organ is called the trachea. So till now we have two different respiratory organs. The first one is the lungs in mammals, and the second is the trachea in insects. So both of them, they live on land. So what about the aquatic life? What about the animals that live in water? So here the fish, it says it's my turn. So you have to talk about the fish. Fish, it has two different important respiratory movements, also inhalation and exhalation. And by this, we can determine the respiratory rhythm of the fish during the inhalation and exhalation during breathing. So if the mouth is open and the operculum is closed, like this case, if the mouth is opened and the operculum is closed, so here we are talking about inhalation. While if the mouth is closed, as this case, the mouth is closed and the operculum is open. Here we are talking about exhalation. So here these notes are very important during the respiratory movement of the fish. If the mouth is open, the water will enter through the mouth. The water will be rich in oxygen and poor in carbon dioxide, whereas when the mouth is closed, the operculum will open and the water will exit through the operculum, and the water exiting the operculum is going to be rich in CO2, carbon dioxide, while it's poor in oxygen since the fish consumes the oxygen. So here, let's move to the respiratory movement of fish. So during inhalation, as I said, the mouth of the fish is open while the operculum is closed. So the water flows into the fish through the mouth. Whereas during exhalation, the mouth of the fish is closed while the operculum is open. So what happened here? That the water flows out, meaning that it is released outside the fish body through the operculum. So what is the respiratory organ of the fish? Is it the mouth? Sure, no. Is it the operculum? Sure, no. It's the gills. So you have to know this. So till now we have three different respiratory organs. The first one, the lungs in mammals. The second, the trachea in insects, and the grasshopper is an example about this. And the third, the gills in fish. So the respiratory movements, inhalation and exhalation, they allow the renewal of the air and water in contact with the respiratory organ. What does this mean? This means that we have different gases that enter or leaves the lungs or the trachea or the gills. So these gas, this water or this air will be rich in oxygen that is inhaled and poor in carbon dioxide, while the exhaled air will be poor in oxygen since it was consumed by the animal. So here, the air entering the lungs, air gets in during inhalation and air gets out. This is for animals living on land, whereas water gets in and water gets out. This is for the animals living in water, the aquatic life during inhalation and exhalation. So why, when animals or plants respire, what happens to the air or the water? What do they absorb and what do they release? Already we know that the respiratory gases exchange is the passage of respiratory gases. Which are these respiratory gases? Already we know that they are the oxygen and carbon dioxide. Between the air or water, either air, they're living on land, so these are for the animals living on land, or the water for those living in water and their different respiratory organs. In this experiment, we aim to study the respiratory gas exchange in fish. This is called the aim of the experiment. Here we have the table showing the variation of the quantity of oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen gases in water as a function of time in minutes. This table is showing the quantity of oxygen at time 0 till time 6 minutes. So as the time increases from 0 to 6, the quantity of oxygen was 7 at the beginning. Also, the quantity of carbon dioxide was 3 at the beginning. Also, the quantity of nitrogen was 19 at the beginning. So at time 0, or at the beginning of the experiment, the quantity of oxygen was 7, that of carbon dioxide was 3, and that of nitrogen was 19. So as time increases from 0 to 6 minutes, what happened for the quantity of oxygen? The quantity of oxygen gas, it decreases from 7 to about 5.6. This is 5.6. So here from 7 to 5.6, what does this mean? This means that the oxygen decreases. Means that the oxygen is consumed or released. When the amount of the gas decreased, this means that this oxygen is absorbed or it's consumed by the animal, okay, or the plant. While for that of carbon dioxide, it was 3 at the beginning, while it decreases at the end of experiment to about 4.1. So this quantity increased. Whenever it increased, this means that the gas is released. It's released and not consumed. If consumed, it will decrease the decrease of oxygen. While if we move for the nitrogen, as we see here, the quantity of nitrogen remains the same. So the nitrogen gas is neither absorbed nor released. So there is no absorption or release for this gas. This means that oxygen and carbon dioxide, they are the respiratory gases, whereas the nitrogen is not, since its value remains constant. So we have to transform this table into a graph always and always and always. Whenever you have the graph, the one is found up in the table will be down in the graph. So the time will be down and the quantity of gases will be up, and you have to take legend in this case. If we have only one, for example, we don't have carbon dioxide or the nitrogen, so you can draw the graph with one line. There is no need for the legend. Okay? Always you have to know the scale and you have to respect the scale if the scale is given, like the case in the worksheet. The case if the scale is given, so you have to respect it. This one will be down, so it will be on the x-axis, and the other gases will be, the quantity of gases will be on the y-axis, and you have to give them the legend. Also, that the graph should be given a title, the scale, title for the axis, and then you plot it at the end, which is the last step. Interpret. What is interpret? You have to know that interpret consists of analyze plus indication, and you know this very well. So analyze plus indication. This is the interpret. What can you conclude? Let's move. So keep these notes in your mind for the next session. So transform the table. So we put the time in minutes on the x-axis here. so time in minutes, and on the y-axis we put the quantity of gas, and here we moved for three different gases. We have oxygen, since this one is decreasing, so sure it's for the oxygen. And the second one, it's increasing, the one in green, so it's for the carbon dioxide. And the one that remains constant is for the nitrogen gas. Interpret at time zero, the quantities of oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen, they were 7, 3, and 19 respectively. What does this mean? This means that the first one, respectively, the word respectively, I told you the last time, respectively, meaning that the oxygen is for the first number, the carbon dioxide for the second number, and the nitrogen for the third number. So the oxygen was 7, the carbon dioxide was 3, and the nitrogen it was 19. That's why we said respectively. So the first to the first, second with the second number, and the third for the third number. As time increases, what happens? As time passes, the quantity of oxygen decreases to reach the minimum, meaning that the lowest value, 5.6 milliliter after 6 minutes. This indicates that the fish is consuming the oxygen gas, so it's a respiratory gas. Also, as time passes, the quantity of carbon dioxide increases to reach the maximum, which is 4.1 after 6 minutes. This means that, or this indicates that, the fish is releasing carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide is released. So this is a respiratory gas, whereas for the nitrogen gas, it remains constant at 19. So from now on, you have to use the word remains constant, and don't have to say it remains the same or it stays the same. You have to use the word constant. So this indicates the fish neither absorbs nor release the nitrogen gas, so it's not a respiratory gas. What can we deduce? We can deduce that the fish respires, inhales, meaning that consumes the oxygen, and exhales and releases carbon dioxide. So what is responsible for the transportation of oxygen and carbon dioxide in our body? We said it's the blood. So that's why we have high number of blood vessels. So blood reaching the lungs will be poor in oxygen and rich in carbon dioxide, but air in the lungs is rich in oxygen and poor in carbon dioxide. So what happens to the blood when it enters the lungs? This is our question. First, we have to talk about diffusion. We said that diffusion is the movement of the particles of a substance from a medium of high concentration or pressure or volume or amount to a medium to a place where there is low amount of this substance, low concentration, low pressure, or low volume. So here the concept of diffusion, where we have high number or high amount of the red dots in this medium. So they move and they diffuse to the medium where we have low number of these red dots. So this is medium of high number, this is medium of low number. This process is called diffusion. So this application, I told you to compare. Comparison for quantity of oxygen blood entering and the blood leaving. How can we compare for oxygen and carbon dioxide? So you have to compare the oxygen in the blood entering and in the blood leaving. While you have to compare the carbon dioxide in the blood entering and in the blood leaving. So let's compare it. The quantity of oxygen in blood entering the lungs was 15 what? Milliliter, which is, whenever we say compare, you have to use either less than or greater than. So these are the two concepts for comparison. Already you know, for example, comparison in math, greater than and less than. The same concept in biology, but you have to use these words also. So the quantity of oxygen in the blood entering the lungs was 15, and I have to mention the unit, milliliter, which is less than or greater than. Sure, it's less than what? It's less than the blood. It's less than the quantity of oxygen in the blood leaving the lungs. So you have to pay attention to this, which is a 20 milliliter. Whereas for carbon dioxide, the quantity of carbon dioxide in the blood entering the lungs, it was 53 milliliter, which is less than or greater than, which is greater than what? Not the blood leaving the lung, which is greater than the quantity of carbon dioxide leaving the lungs, which is 49. So you have to pay attention to the comparison here. And This is the blood entering the lungs containing less oxygen than the blood leaving. What does this mean? This means that oxygen always diffuses from lungs that are rich in oxygen to the blood that is poor in oxygen. The same for carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide it diffuses from the blood that is rich in carbon dioxide to the lung that is poor in carbon dioxide. So relating the gas interchange, this slide or these notes, they are important to study them. Oxygen gas diffuses from the lungs that's rich in oxygen to the blood that is poor in oxygen. Carbon dioxide gas diffuses from blood rich in carbon dioxide to the lungs that are poor in carbon dioxide. So, what is the respiratory organ of some animals living on land? We told that it's the lungs. So, what do we call this type of respiration? It's called pulmonary. We have other than the animals, we have humans, for example. Also, we have rabbits and frogs, those on land. So the frogs on land, they have the lungs as a respiratory organ, and their respiration, the type of respiration is called the pulmonary respiration. Let's move now to other animals that are the insects. Insects, they don't have that. They have trachea. So what do we call the type of respiration? It's called the tracheal respiration. So we have till now two different types of respiration. Those who have the lungs as respiratory organ, so these are called the pulmonary respiration. And the second one, those who have the trachea as the respiratory organ, mainly they are the insects. So this is called the tracheal respiration. Also, the gas exchange at the level of the trachea. These notes you have to study them. That the oxygen gas diffuses from the trachea, that is rich in oxygen, to the organs that are poor in oxygen. Carbon dioxide diffuses from the organs that are rich in carbon dioxide to the trachea that are poor in carbon dioxide. If you realize here, both of them they are the opposite. So oxygen diffuses from the trachea, which is rich in oxygen, to the organs that are poor in oxygen. Carbon dioxide, the opposite, diffuses from the organs that are rich in carbon dioxide to the trachea that is poor in carbon dioxide. So in earthworms, the skin is the respiratory organ. So they have a special type of respiration, which is called the cutaneous respiration. So till now, we have three different types of respiration. The first one is called the pulmonary, where the lungs they are respiratory organ. The second is called the tracheal, where we have the trachea as respiratory organ. It's found in insects. And the third type of respiration is called the cutaneous respiration, where the skin is the respiratory organ. So what is the respiratory organ of fish? It's the gills, as we said before. So you have to write a short text explaining the gas exchange during respiration inside the fish. So water enters the mouth. Water entering is rich in oxygen and is poor in carbon dioxide. So the water reaches the gills where the blood vessels in the gill they are very poor in oxygen and they are rich in carbon dioxide. What will happen? Oxygen will diffuse from the water that is the medium rich in oxygen toward the blood in the gills that is the medium poor in oxygen, while carbon dioxide in the opposite direction. It diffuses from the blood that is rich in carbon dioxide to the water that is poor in carbon dioxide. And finally, the water leaves the operculum, as we know, and this water is poor in oxygen and it's rich in carbon dioxide. So under the water, frogs, as we said, they respire through the skin, while on land they respire through the lungs. So they have two different types of respiration. On land, they have pulmonary. Under the water, they breathe through their skin. So they have cutaneous respiration. So here the frogs that are classified as amphibians, they have two types of respiration. On land, they have pulmonary. In water, they have cutaneous, since they use their skin as the respiratory organ. Now let's move to the exercise of the worksheet. Here, all of you, you have to pay attention because this is very important for our quiz. The table below represents the variation of the respiratory rate of a fish as a function of the temperature of water. Here we have the temperature of water and we have this table. This table is showing the condition, and the different forms of this. Here, anyone, I can ask you a question. You can simply unmute yourself and you can speak. Okay? So here we have temperature. As you see here, at the beginning, the temperature was 5 degrees Celsius. And at the end, the temperature was 30. So we are moving with increasing temperature. At the beginning, the temperature was 5. What was the respiratory rhythm? It was 25 watt per minute. While temperature was 10, the respiratory rhythm was 35, 15, 40, 20, 45, 25, 48, 30, it was 60. So first of all, and the first question I'm going to ask to Laris. Larissa Sharp, what do you think?
Yes,
What will happen as the temperature increases? What's happening? As the temperature increases, what will happen for the respiratory rhythm?
it will increase.
It increases. So as temperature increases, the respiratory rhythm increases. Thank you. So the first question is going to move to, let's see here, do you have Ali Khalifi? Good morning, Ali. Ali, good morning. Okay, let's move to Leia Ghraib. Good morning, Leia.
Good morning.
Okay, the first part is yours, Leia. How can the respiratory rhythm of the fish be identified? How can we identify that we have respiration inside the fish? Do you know? Did you study these notes?
Yes,
Yes, can you tell me?
when the mouth is open and the
Yes,
operculum is closed, we call it inhalation.
excellent.
While the while the operculum is open, when the operculum is closed and the mouth is open, we call it exhalation.
So here you confuse between these two. When the mouth is open and the operculum is closed, this is the inhalation. While when the mouth is closed and the operculum is open, this is the exhalation. Okay? So you have to pay attention to this. Thank you, Leah. So part B, we said construct a curve that represents the variation of the respiratory rhythm of a fish as the function of temperature. So here, a curve, what do they mean by curve? It's the graph. So you have to draw a graph. Here, we can get the title. Curve, it means the graph, the same as the graph. So draw a curve or draw a graph is the same concept. So from this, we can get the title. It's graph showing the variation of the respiratory fish as a function of temperature in degrees Celsius. And this is the title of the graph. They gave us the scale. They said use the scale. On the x-axis, every 1 centimeter will be 5 degrees Celsius, while on the y-axis, every 1 centimeter will be 10 breath per minute. So here, the axis, oh, this is the graph, for example. On the x-axis, we have to use what? You have to put the temperature. Okay? Since always the one up in the table should be down in the graph. So you have to write temperature and you don't have to write temp. You have to write it as a full word, temperature in degrees Celsius. And on the y-axis, you have to write the respiratory rhythm per minute. Okay, this is the first step. I know which one on the X and which one on the Y. And I put it the title for the axis. Now I'm going to move to draw the graph together. And all of you, you have to pay attention. This is a very important for our quiz next Friday. Okay, so let's move to the graph. And the part C, they said analyze, and part D, they said what can you conclude. Let's move to the graph. So the graph. First of all of you have to pay attention, and I'm going to pick this time. I'm going to pick uh, Lin Shivani. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, first of all, we have temperature and we have respiratory rhythm. What do you think? Which one will be on the x-axis and which one will be on the y-axis?
On the x-axis will
Yes,
be temperature.
excellent. And on the y-axis, it will be what?
On the y-axis, the respiratory rhythm.
Respiratory rhythm. Very good. Very good. This is the first step, and this is the most important step. I'm going to draw it, and you should draw it short using a pen, and you have to draw it on a graph paper. And also in our quiz, only the graph paper will be allowed. Other than the graph, it will not be accepted. So they gave us the scale. They said on the x-axis, every 1 centimeter, it's 5 degrees Celsius. So I have, this is the zero first, okay? So I have to move 5 by 5. So this is 5. Then we have 10. Here I put 15. Then we have 20. Then we have 25. And finally we have here, we have the 30. This is it clear before we start? Any questions before I move?
Yes.
Okay, great. So here we put
No.
temperature. This is temperature in degrees Celsius. Okay, this is the temperature. So let's continue. This is
Okay.
the temperature. Second, we have to move to the respiratory rhythm. They said every 1 centimeter, it represents 10. So I have to move 10 by 10. So this is 10. This is 20.
Okay.
This is 30. This is 40. Hassan Jiradi, everything is clear? 50.
Yeah.
Okay, yalla, keep with me, Hassan. Your turn is next. This is 60. And they have to put the title, Respiratory Rhythm. Respiratory Rhythm per minute. Okay, Hassan, the first point. They said temperature when it was 5, right?
Yes.
When temperature was 5, what was the respiratory rhythm? It was how much?
25.
25?
Yes.
Yes, where's 25? It's in the middle between 20 and
And
30. This is a 25. So when it was 5, it was here. So it should be here. Let's make it with another color. Let's make it with red here. So this is the first point. Let's move now to Huda Laban. Huda, what do you think? The second point, when the temperature was, second point, temperature it was what?
10.
10.
The
Excellent. So here 10. So the respiratory rhythm, it was what?
35. We
35.
put it
Where's 35? Between what? Between 30 and 40.
40.
Very good. So here 35. So this is 10. Let's move to Lin Khalifa.
Yes.
Lin, the third point, when the temperature was 15,
40.
30,
40.
40. So it's 15, it's 40. Here is 40, and here is 15. So you have to move here, and this is 40. Yes, Ali Basma, do you have a question or you want to answer?
no, I want to answer.
Yes, Ali. Yalla, the second. After 15, we have 20,
After
right?
the 20.
20, it was what?
It was 45.
Where is
Between 40 and
45? Between 40
between
and
40.
50. This is 45. Thank you, Ali. This is 45. Let's move now to Fatima Battah. Yes, Fatima. 25.
Yeah,
It was what?
25, 48 between
48.
40 and 40 between 40 and 45
Between
as
40,
the 50.
45
45 and
and 50.
50.
Excellent. So here in the graph paper, it's going to be dashed, so it's easier. So let's say it's here 48. Okay. So this is 48, and the 25, it's 48. Thank you, Fatima. Let's move now to new student. Let's move to Zahra Dia. Zahra, good morning.
Yes. Good morning.
So when the temperature it was 30, what was the respiratory rhythm? It was what?
60.
60. So there's 30. So remove here, it's 60. Okay. Here we have to draw the graph. So we draw the graph and we connect these points together. Okay. Some of you is going to do what? Some of you is going to attach this to the zero. Here. It's true or false? What do you think, Razan? If we attach this to zero?
False.
False. We don't have to do this. So this one, you don't have to do this. Okay? You have to connect only the points. Here, I want to move to I want a new student. I need Talin. Good morning, Talin.